Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm reacting to Nonduality, an examination of the three states, waking, dream, and deep sleep introduction from, let's see, someone recommended Ira Schepetin, I believe. According to the message, was is a brilliant scholar in Advaita Vedanta. So we'll give this person a shot. This was actually he doesn't. I don't believe this person has a channel. So when I looked up the name, there's a few videos of him, but it's from different channels. So, anyways, let's go ahead and give this guy a shot. It's gonna be broken down to about three parts. I wanted this to be the introduction because this is kind of, at least for me, an introduction to Advaita Vedanta was this three different states, which we haven't, visited in a long while. So let's hear what he has to say about it.
Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, so today I want to share with the listeners this teaching about the three states of consciousness and how that teaching fits into non-duality and how it's a method to realize the truth about yourself. In order to appreciate this method, there are some unique ideas that have to be appreciated. And they're very subtle ideas, but they're not outside of anyone's experience. So if someone is willing to make the effort to introvert their own minds, to see whether what is being stated is in accordance with their own experience, that's the requirement. You don't have to know Sanskrit. You don't have to have any yogic practices. This teaching is quite unique in that everybody with a modicum of introvertedness can understand what is being stated. And then they can validate the truth or non-truth of the teaching in the light of their own experience right here and right now. So let me just begin with a reminder or an outline of what exactly is the ultimate teaching of non-duality. What does it actually mean? What is the idea that is taught in this ancient teaching of one reality without a second? So basically, the Tatparium, the final teaching of the whole teaching in all of the Bhagavad Gita and all the Upanishads and all of the other texts, there's only one thing that's being taught. The ultimate object of all the teaching is that only the self, only yourself, only who you really are is all that exists. You are the only reality. The self is one without a second. The self exists alone. The second thing is that
Real quick, just to make a little quick comment. Interestingly, he said object here, and I do understand in Vedanta, um, Brahman, Atman, the pure consciousness is not. Is it an object? It's not an object, but I believe he's speaking in terms of the Western type of language. So just to help people understand that even though he says an object, just to be able to understand, kind of like what a lot of people in the comments explained to me, you first have to understand duality to understand non-duality, which makes no sense to me, but at the same time it did. And this is kind of the same thing. You have to understand it as an object first, duality, to understand that it's no longer an object. But again, I know some people may make that comment like, "Oh, he's saying it's an object." It's not. It's all what do you call illusions, Maya in Brahman.
this self, which exists, its nature is pure consciousness. I use the word pure to distinguish it from our
Ego.
everyday consciousness in which we're aware of something, some object, some phenomena.
Ego.
If you can take that object away, take whatever is being objectified away with nothing appearing, no object, objectless consciousness, that's called pure consciousness.
And now he says that it's not. It's obviously not an object, even though he did kind of say at the very beginning. Unless I misheard him, but I think I got it right. But at the same time, I mean, again, I guess maybe he's diving straight into Advaita Vedanta. No duality here.
And the third thing about this one self that exists, that is pure consciousness, is that its nature is infinite bliss or happiness. The very nature of the self, not caused by anything, its very nature, just like light and heat is the nature of fire. If it's not hot, it's not fire. If it's not bliss, it's not the self. Its very nature is bliss. This in Sanskrit is called Satchitananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. The only reality that exists is you, and you are of that nature. You exist because you never change. Your nature is not in time. It doesn't have a beginning, it doesn't have an end, and it doesn't have a middle. Past, present, future don't apply to the self. Now, this teaching sounds like the ramblings of a madman. Nobody can believe that who I am is the one reality and that there's no world and there's no anything other than that. There's no people, there's no time, there's no space. This teaching seems to be totally opposed to everyone's experience. Let's leave that aside. This is what this teaching, that's the final conclusion. There's only the self, it's pure consciousness and pure bliss. There's no second thing other than that. There never was, there isn't now, there never will be. There's only one pure consciousness that's the only reality. Sarvam idam Brahma eva. All of this phenomena, this whole universe, in truth, is nothing but yourself. That's the final teaching. Of course, if it's true, if we were to realize that that is myself in truth, not a religious belief, not a faith, not a hope that after I die, will find out the truth of this, but it refers to an actually existing fact that you can recognize at any time, including here and now, because it's always present, it's never hidden, it's always shining, ever available. Its nature is self-revealed. Consciousness doesn't need anything to reveal it. Everything is revealed to it. That consciousness, pure consciousness, which is your very nature, you can never lose it. If you were to recognize that fact, I am that. I am that absolute reality. In Sanskrit, it's called Brahman. I am that absolute non-dual reality, which has no birth, old age, disease, or death. I have no grief or delusion or desires. I am ever content and peaceful. If someone could realize that, not as a mystical experience, but
But it's
as
a
a
reality.
self-evident fact that is indubitable.
Real quick, he said, "Desires. I'm ever content and peaceful. I'm ever content and peaceful. This is what I personally believe pure consciousness is. It's not about bliss or happiness. It's contentment and peace. Although peace would have an attachment to it and contentment. Contentment would also kind of, but at the same time, it's also a state. It has a label. That state has a label just to so that we can understand it. So it's not necessarily, I guess, it's technically attachment, but at the same time, it's attachment that makes sense. Because contentment doesn't mean happiness or sadness. You're just content with the way things are. Um, Again, anyways, this is what I believe. Um, uh, I guess pure consciousness is. I know everyone. I believe everyone anyway. At least Swami Sarvapriyananda, Swami Taratmananda, Sadhguru, all including this person here, says that Brahman is bliss. Sadhguru doesn't say. I don't believe it says Brahman is bliss, but you can kind of get it from the way he kind of speaks. You see me here, I'm blissed out. So assuming that when you get to that state, you're blissed out. So so far, again, I'm not going to sit there and say like, oh, I'm correct and they're wrong, but this is my belief of that. Now, I definitely could be wrong. Maybe that's the reason why I'm not I'm not enlightened. Is because I am not blissed out. I am content and peaceful for sure. Not all the time, but I actually like content and peaceful because it's in a sense, a neutral state. The way I look at happiness and sadness is that if you're always say, let's put it in a perspective that we can understand. Let's say this is neutral. No, this is neutral right here. Neutral. Yeah, there we go. Then this is happy. This is your happiness. This level. This is neutral. This is happiness. And then your this happiness for all of your life. You know nothing else. This is actually your neutral now, right here. Even though you're happy, but you're neutral. You're content here because this is not more. This is happier than your happiness, and this is sadness, even though it's still technically happiness because your happiness is up here. This is your norm now. This is essentially your contentment because this is the way life is for you. So when you get used this, that's how I see things. So when you have a certain level of happiness and that's been very consistent, that is no longer happiness. That is contentment, just because that is your normal. And anything less than that is sadness. Anything more than that is happiness. I hope that makes sense. Um, but yeah, let's see.
It becomes the one thing that you can't doubt. In fact, if you were to realize yourself as that, there'd be no time left in which a later idea could come and cancel that idea. Because this idea that I am the one reality without a second makes time conspicuous by its absence. In me, there's no time. There's nothing that can come that could refute because there's no second thing. So, this is the teaching, and it seems that it's against our experience. Our experience is that reality is multifold. There are many things. There are worlds and planets and stars and time and space and causation. And there are people and they're born and they get old and they get. This is the reality that everyone is experiencing. And I feel that I am this myself, who I am, was born in a world that exists independently of me. And I am getting old and I will get sick and this body will go, and the world that I'm perceiving, which exists independently of me, will continue because the world is real. I can see it, touch it, smell it, other people see it. This is what we all believe, and it's totally opposed to this teaching that there's only one self that's pure consciousness bliss. If it is a fact that my true self is nothing but pure consciousness bliss, then it must be a mistake. If it is the fact that that's my true nature, and I never lose that true nature, but if I say, I was born, I'm getting old, I am happy, I am sad, if we have these ideas, it must be the I, who I am, pure consciousness, has been taken for something that it's not. I am fat, I am thin, I am going, I am. All of these ideas don't apply to the self that I just described to you. That self is unchanging. It can't go anywhere. It doesn't sit down. It has no thoughts. It has no senses. But I say, I see, I think, I am tall, I am short, I am a man, I am a woman. All of these ideas I have about myself must be, if it's true that myself is really that pure consciousness, then these ideas must be false superimpositions. I've taken myself, which is nothing but pure, ever present consciousness, to be the object. I've identified myself with the phenomena that's appearing to consciousness. So the whole purpose of Vedanta, of this teaching, is to remove this misconception that we have about ourselves. I am this, and this is mine. I am this body. I have senses. I have a mind. I am this ego. I see, I hear, I touch, and I'm related to other things. My wife, my child.
I was waiting for him to get to the ego part, but that's like I was gonna say that's the. I was thinking about this while I was talking about it. Like I don't want to throw away the ego. We must look at it as a type of reality as well. That it's something that's temporary with the body. I mean, and it's something that I don't want to throw this world as something false. I don't like to do that as well. We can accept this world, this life, and all that as reality because it is in fact Brahman. It may be an illusion, as in not completely real, but it's all still Brahman itself, which is reality. I want to I want to I want I was gonna say want to start a school like that because genuinely do fear people who says, well, if this is all fake and reality is I'm Brahmin, and then they might start, doing like this because, well, what's the point if they're suffering? And to say that, to make this life worth something, it has to be unique and different. It's not to say it's separate from Brahman, but so that we can see, how do I say, the good that we can do. I don't know the right word. This is something I just recently thought of while I was talking about this, and something that I've always wanted to push ever since understanding that this world is not the ultimate reality in a sense. I do like the idea of who your true nature is. I don't like the idea of saying this world is false because I know I do believe Swami Sarvapriyananda has said that Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda has acknowledged that this world is real, which I do like, and I want to push that. But at the same time, I don't want to push it just because. I have to understand why I want to push that and reasons behind it. Otherwise, it's a useless belief in a sense. Like, I believe it just because I want to. I believe it just because I like it. That's not good enough for me. There has to be a reason behind it. And the couple of reasons that are very easy for me is the fact that, in a sense, you get one life. I mean, you may think of this life as false, but I like that if you think about it in terms of reality, then this is the one life that you get. Yes, there may be one consciousness, but this ego is unique, and this is part of the reason why I want to push the ego as something real as well. Is not the ultimate reality, but it is a reality. I know I've said this in the past whenever we talked about the different realities. I say there's three of them. There's the subjective reality, which is the per individual basis. So my subjective reality is going to probably be a little bit different from someone else's. There's the objective reality, which is what most people see. Like this is a pen. We see this as objectively true. Then there's the ultimate reality, which is Brahman, which is the underlying reality of all of existence. Not limited by time, space, or objects. That being the ultimate reality. I do not want to discount these two. This one is subjective, which can be discounted because if I'm sitting here telling you that this is a pony, obviously it's not objectively true, but it's subjectively true, which other people can throw away as nonsense. At the same time, for me, you have to prove to me that this is not a pony. Hallucinating right now, okay? But yes, I do not want to discount this. This is where, um, obviously, this is where the ego lives. This is where your true selves will live. Technically speaking, it's on all of them, but this is the truth reality of it all. Um, trying to formulate the idea. It's kind of I've not really thought too deep about it because I understand it, but to explain it that makes sense, it's a little bit difficult. But I hope you understand what I'm trying to say because I don't want people to throw away their lives just because they don't think this is reality in itself. When I want to confirm that while this may not be reality, it's still worth living in a sense. It's still worth making good changes. It's worth living your life out to the best of your abilities. That's the argument that I want to try to fight for. There's nothing we can do about the ultimate reality here. The ultimate reality here. These things we can make changes to. This one we cannot. And the fact that you are already pure enlightenment, pure Satchit Ananda, existence. Oh my gosh, I can't remember the phrase now. Existence something bliss. Satchit Ananda. I remember that one. Why can't I remember the English translation of it? Exist, because I'm not clearly not conscious of it, but existent consciousness bliss. That is something that we cannot change. Whether we acknowledge it or not, it's irrelevant in a sense because that's what we are. Whether we acknowledge it or not, we are that. There's nothing we can do to change that. We can try to be the opposite of that, but the reality is we are that. So that's the thing that we cannot change. And this is the thing that I want to change. Even though it's fake and false and not real, but it is still real enough that we can make changes to that, where people are still stuck in this reality and not the ultimate reality. I hope that makes sense.
My money, my house, this I and mine are false superimpositions on our true nature. They're just misconceptions. Even though I'm always that pure consciousness in which everything is appearing, they call it the witness. In that witnessing consciousness, in which the body appears, the ego appears, the outside world appears, in that we've identified that subject with the object. And because of that, we take ourselves to be I am so and so. In order to remove this misconception, if it is a misconception, the teacher and the teaching can only do one thing, and that's to remove the misconceptions. Whatever it says, in the end, everything has to be negated, including the teacher, the student, the teaching, all of, if there's only the self, then there's no teacher, there's no teaching, there's no student that needs to be taught. But because I've taken myself to be this body, mind, and senses, and therefore I'm a knower, I know things, I have a mind, I have senses, I can reason. This knowership is the very bondage, because unless you take the pure consciousness as having a mind, you can't know anything. Unless you've superimposed the mind on that consciousness, consciousness doesn't know anything. And the mind, in fact, is just a thought. It doesn't know anything. It's only when they're mixed together we become a knower. But the self in its true nature is just pure consciousness. One without a second. It doesn't know anything. It's just pure light. So the teaching can't reveal that light because nothing reveals that light. That light reveals everything. The light of the self reveals everything, including the subject and the object. I and that are both objects to that unchanging witnessing consciousness. There's no way to objectify that, to make it known as an object of the mind, because this consciousness is the consciousness in which the very mind itself is appearing and disappearing. When I say mind, I mean thoughts, emotions, perceptions, memories. All mental phenomena can only appear in the light of consciousness. But we take it that the thoughts are conscious. It's the thoughts that know things. Even though the thoughts are objects and the consciousness is the subject, when they're mixed together, we say the mind knows. When consciousness is superimposed on the senses, we say the eyes know, the ears know the sounds, the skin knows the touches, the nose knows the smells, the tongue knows, the senses seem conscious. In fact, the whole body seems conscious. Even though they're all objects, phenomena, we've identified that consciousness with the body, the mind, the senses, and even the ego. This I, I'm the knower, I'm the seer. There's actually a witness for that ego, which is just another thought in the mind. I go, I sit. It's just a, I am fact, I am happy. It's flittering around. If you examine it, you'll see that it doesn't refer to any solid, unchanging thing. It's changing all the time. I was old, I was young, now I'm old. I was thin, now I'm overweight. This I, who we take ourselves certainly to be, is an object to that consciousness, to your consciousness. So the purpose of Vedanta is to remove all of the things that have been superimposed on that consciousness. And then nothing remains to be done to make that consciousness known. Why? Because even though everything has to be known in the light of that consciousness doesn't need another thing to make it known. It's self-evident, self-lit, self-manifest. Everything else is lit by that, is manifest by that. But nothing needs to manifest that, to light that, to make that evident. It's self-evident, self-manifest. It's the one thing you can't doubt because that consciousness has to be there in order to doubt or to affirm or to assert or deny. It's the one indubitable reality that never changes, regardless of what the mind, the body, or the outside world is doing.
Hmm. It's it made me think about something. So this is the thing that allows you to doubt. It has to be there in order to doubt or to affirm or to assert. It's very interesting. So we understand that all of reality, all of existence, all of time is Brahman. So while I and this thing is pure consciousness, can this doubt or affirm or assert anything? It cannot, even though it is pure consciousness. But I'm wondering, it's that's doubt, assert, affirm. Obviously, animals or things that has a brain that can think like us, or animals in general, and perhaps maybe plants. I'm not sure. Um, can doubt and affirm or assert certain things. They are also pure consciousness. But this is pure consciousness as well, right? But it cannot doubt or affirm or assert anything. I understand that pure consciousness does nothing except illuminate things, makes you aware of things. Pure consciousness is awareness. That's all it really is. I don't. It doesn't. Pure consciousness itself does not doubt or affirm or assert anything. That's our ego, our brain that does that. If it has the capabilities of doing that. This does not have the capability of doubting or affirming or asserting anything. That's the reason why it doesn't do those things, although it is still pure consciousness. But I guess what he's trying to say here is the sheer fact that is to prove the point that you cannot do anything without consciousness, but at the same time, consciousness itself cannot. Well, I mean, technically, if there's only one consciousness, it is everything. So therefore, if I can do something, it 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 itself can do it as well, because there's only ever one of it, and if that is one of it, and there's weird to say many of us, but if any of us can do it, then therefore consciousness itself can do it. It's a little confusing because you think of one and then many. You know, you think of the one pure consciousness, yet there are many of us, including animals and individuals, and it's all false realities. But anyways, I'm gonna pause it right here, and it's. I understand what he's trying to say, because without consciousness, you can't do anything. But at the same time, when you look at it in terms of the individual things, this cannot do anything either, because it does, even though it has pure consciousness. But I guess it's kind of like, I guess, our bodies, when we become unconscious, pure consciousness is still there, but the ego is what I like to think of is knocked out in a sense, and that's kind of the thing that, I guess, in a sense, is the difference, which is the mind. Sorry, this is like really, it's pretty deep, but it's because I lack understanding of certain functions in terms of in terms of the objective world, I like to think the objective world itself, that are obviously conscious is always there, even if you're unconscious. But it's just that your brain is not able to put things into memory so that you remember them. That's what all our brain does. It's essentially it's like a terrible photocopier. It loses paper sometimes. You're like, what is this? I don't remember. Because we forget things, or maybe we have a disease that where we just don't know what things are anymore. But anyways, all our brain is just it's a memory bank of remembering things. That's all it really is. We remember the reason why we can talk is because of language that we remember. The reason why we know how to do math is because we can remember it. The only reason why we can write things down is because of remembering things. The reason why we can build computers or type on the keyboards is because we remember how to do it. You know. And where was I getting with that one? And anyways, when you're unconscious, your brain doesn't really, I won't say remember, but doesn't store it into memory. And that's the reason why, even though you're conscious, in the sense of pure consciousness, that you don't remember when you were unconscious. Because your brain's not functioning, even though you have pure consciousness all the time. And I guess it goes to the same thing with deep sleep as well, because you don't remember your deep sleep even though your brain is technically actually actively doing something. It's putting a lot of the short-term memory into long-term. So when you rest, that's when it happens, and that usually I believe that's what probably brings up dreams. Is because every now and then, and never every now and again, your brain just jots down the memory that it's trying to remember. And that's the reason why it has all these. When you dream, you have all these weird places. Like, yeah, I've been here before, but I'm not here right now. And your it's really interesting that your how do I say this? You're always aware of it, but you don't remember it because your brain does not necessarily jot it down to memory. And whenever you wake up, you're like, "Oh man, I remember I had a dream. It was really cool," because your brain jotted it down. But I believe scientists say that you dream every day, but you just don't remember it. At least they say I think at least 2 times a day, 2 to 3 times a day, or excuse me, 2 to 3 times when you have a deep sleep. Probably is more accurate. But so again, just trying to bridge pure consciousness and the brain and ego itself. Um, Jeez, I'm sorry, I'm going a little bit deep and forgetting my position a lot because it's very complicated. But anyways, it's just a fact about doubt affirming a set. That those are things that you have to be your ego, which your ego and consciousness in the layman's term. I don't mean pure consciousness. So ego, I consider like when we are conscious of the world, when we are aware, when our brain is functioning normally and remembering things. I call that the ego because it's the one that says, "I know this, I remember that, I can eat that," kind of deal. I like this. So that's what I call the ego. Pure consciousness doesn't remember anything. It doesn't know emotions. It doesn't know anything. It's just pure awareness, pure consciousness. That's all it can ever do. It never gets attached to anything. Whereas the ego does. And the ego is highly dependent on your capabilities of remembering. Imagine if your brain resets every day, where your brain's so badly damaged that you don't remember anything, not even knowing how to talk. You'd be like a fresh born baby every single day. Have to learn how to talk and everything. And then your brain will start remembering the short term memory. And then whenever you go to sleep, because your long term memory is all shot up, everything is lost every single day. It's a fresh reset. There is a guy, I believe, again, I said this in the past, but there is a British person, I believe, that cannot store anything to long-term memory anymore. I believe he has, or I think he has like a 5 minute memory or something like that. But he can remember everything in the past, but he can no longer store new information. So they did an interview with the guy. Now again, I don't know if it's real or not, or if it's true or not, but they claim it to be. which can make sense. I mean, again, if your capabilities of long-term remembering, creating new long-term memory is shot, then yeah, it's very believable. It's believable to be true that it can happen. Now, whether the guy's lying or not, it's a different story. But I wouldn't doubt that there is a type of either disease or type of problem out there that would prevent someone from doing long-term memory. So, um, again, the ego essentially is the big role in that one. I want to distinguish pure consciousness and ego here. Anyways, I explained quite a lot there, and the other experiment, which I'm not going to go into, I'm just going to say it simply. It's imagine someone being born, but has no senses whatsoever, has no touch, no smell, no you can't hear anything, can't see anything, can't taste anything. Literally, all the senses are shut. So there is no experience from the outside world. They're blind, they can't see, so you can touch them. They don't respond to the touch, except for the natural reaction of things. But even they cannot feel that. There's no nerves, and no sense of smell, no sense of hearing. Everything's automated. What do you think they experience? Just pure blackness. That is it. Nothing. No sensation whatsoever. But they are alive. They are conscious. And would there be an ego there? I mean, how do you even? There's no way to gather information because there's no way of communicating to the person. You know, if you put them in, essentially they were born without ever experiencing anything, not knowing anything. Then what would that be like? It's a bit of a weird one for sure, but at least this one you'd look at. There is an ego in a sense, maybe, but there is also consciousness in this being that cannot experience anything. What is that like? Anyways, going to probably way off topic there. But anyways, that's the end of this part. So anyways, there'll be about 2 more parts to this one. If you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up the sign down below. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next vid.